We turn now to the conviction of the deputy who killed Christian Glass. But that conviction yesterday isn't the final chapter in the story. There are 4 other officers who were on the scene that night now awaiting their trials. They'll be this spring and summer. They're on trial for not stepping in and stopping the shooting.
We reported the verdict in Andrew Buen's case here last night about this time. The former deputy was convicted of criminally negligent homicide for shooting and killing Christian Glass that night. 9 News reporter Steve Steger has been asking if Buen's conviction might have an impact on those other cases. Steve?
Yeah, Kim, there were actually 7 police officers on scene in Silver Plume the night that Christian Glass called 911 for help after getting his SUV stuck on a boulder. The 6 officers who didn't shoot all were charged with failure to intervene to stop the shooting. A judge dropped charges against 2 of them on a technicality. The others are preparing for their jury trials.
The reality is that this is a jury that did their job.
A former deputy is entering his 2nd full day in the jailhouse where he used to work. Andrew Buen is now in custody, awaiting sentencing in mid-April after a jury decided his actions the night of Christian Glass's death amounted to criminally negligent homicide.
But I would anticipate a sentence imposed within the 1 to 3 years, or a sentence to probation with perhaps county jail as a condition.
As Buen is locked up here, 4 of his colleagues will make their way through a different wing of the building. Randy Williams, the head of the Georgetown Police Department. Tim Collins, a former Clear Creek County deputy who arrived with Buen on scene that night. Brittany Morrow, an Idaho Springs police officer. And Ryan Bennie, a Colorado State Patrol trooper. The 4 of them have been charged with a misdemeanor, failure to intervene. All were on scene that night when Glass called 911 for help. Prosecutors allege they should have stepped in to stop Buen before the shooting.
I anticipate that the judges that hear these 4 cases, if they all go to trial, will not let evidence about the conviction of Andrew Buen be part of the case. That would seem to be simple fairness.
9 News legal analyst Scott Robinson says Buen's conviction shouldn't have much of an impact on those outstanding cases, though it could.
The conviction of the individual most responsible may open the door for plea bargains with the other defendants.
Misdemeanor cases only need 6 jurors rather than 12. But keep in mind, upwards of a third of Clear Creek County's small population has already been summoned for Buen's trials.
There is a risk of what we call overlapping jury panels because of the number of people who have been called on the prior 2 Buen cases. Hopefully the judge can sort out who will be fair and find 6 jurors to try these misdemeanor cases if all 4 go to trial.
2 Colorado Division of Gaming officers were also on scene. They saw their charges drop last year after a judge decided the pair technically weren't peace officers and didn't have to intervene in this case. The 4 others will go on trial in May and June. If convicted, they would have to surrender their license to be a police officer in the state of Colorado. Live in studio, Steve Steger, 9 News.
I think some people would wonder, Steve, why hasn't there been some kind of a plea already? And also, I know you touched on this yesterday. There's been a complete turnover in the department up there since this incident.
Yeah, you know, the first part of that question, it's difficult to get a plea here because these are misdemeanor charges. If you plead guilty, you're giving up your license to be a police officer. Now, some of them may say, I don't want to go through the hassle of a trial leading up to this, but they've gone this long and their trials are coming up here, so you'd think that they would potentially do it. So much has changed in Clear Creek County in the last few years. We have a new sheriff up there. That new sheriff is implementing all sorts of new training. Sent out a statement yesterday talking about the change and how important it was to him to do that, especially for the Glass family. But there's also a mental health crisis response team in Clear Creek County now, a response team that would respond to a call like Christian Glass's that night in June of 2022.
So tragic that wasn't in place before, but you have to hope that is some of the good that came out of something.
Yeah, there is some positive in all of this. And you know, Sally Glass talks about there are people walking up to her on the streets of Georgetown during this trial and saying, thank you for what you've done, pushing for this because it's made change.
Okay, thank you, Steve.